Good evening. This is the City Council, City of Douglasville. It's our legislative work session, and it's Thursday, November 16th, and it's 6 o'clock. I am the Mayor Pro Tem. The Mayor and two of our other council members are at a National League of Cities Conference in Charlotte, and so we wish them safe, process of getting home. So tonight, our invocation is by Miss Andrea Jala of Shaw Temple AME Zion Church. She will be giving our invocation, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Mark Adams. Please stand.
Good evening. We thank God for his blessings and his loving kindness towards us. We thank him for this day. Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we come to say thank you. Lord, thank you for taking us through the hustle and bustle of this day. But for gathering us together, we say thank you. Now, God, be with your people. Impart wisdom and knowledge as we discuss about this city. Lord, we thank you for the leaders of this city. We pray that you will continue to bless them. Father God, we pray that every discussion will be done with respect. And Lord, we pray that as we leave this place, that we will resolve what we have all come to do. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Miss Andrea Jala, for that invocation, and our Councilman Mark Adams for the Pledge of Allegiance. I just have a couple of things I'm going to announce, and it's just pretty much protocol here in our council office or room here, and that is we have cell phones that need to be silenced, and please do that. Keep your conversations to a minimum, and no outbursts or booing, no clapping unless initiated by the mayor or council. And if you would like to give comment during this meeting, you will need to fill out our citizens comment card, and it's found at the small table when you enter the auditorium, and hand it to the city clerk to my right. We only accept for and against comments from our citizens on zoning matters, and you will be given the length of time and direction when to do so by the councilman that's going to be running that particular meeting. All other comments will be received during the comments form from citizens and delegates section of this meeting. And before giving any comments, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Okay. The first committee is the Public Safety Committee. Councilman Sam Davis is out tonight. I'm the vice chair, and we have the first item I have is semi-annual report presented by Court Services and for January through June of 2017. Yes.
I'm Angie Cochran, the court administrator, 2083 Fairburn Road, Douglasville, Georgia, 30135. And this is my 6-month quarterly report from January to June 2017. This is our org chart. There's a court administrator, administrative clerk, a senior court clerk, and 5 court clerks. That's a picture of all of us. And we have court on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Sessions are at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and 2 p.m. They average 8 to 12 hours per day, or per session, I'm sorry. We have bond hearings on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Most of those are just setting a bond, getting them out of process through the court system and giving them a new court date. Traffic violation arraignments are held 4 times per month with an average of 200 cases on each arraignment. They're handled by the judge in court, and he usually lasts about 8 hours to 10 hours a day. Pretrial arraignments are one arraignment per month. They're handled by the solicitor, and there's usually an average of 65 cases on the pretrial calendar. Those take another 8 to 10 hours per session. Bench trials are usually held 2 sessions per month, which is a 10 a.m. and a 2 p.m. And there's an average of 40 cases on that docket, and that can last anywhere from 8 to 10 hours per day, and the solicitor handles all the bench trials. We have an arraignment called a serious offense arraignment that's 1 time per month, 2 sessions. That's our big arraignment where we have DUIs and shoplifting, marijuana less than an ounce, suspended license, just more serious cases. We just try to keep them away from all the smaller cases. They are average 90 to 100 per session, and that we try to get through those between 8 and 10 hours. The public defender is there 2 sessions per month. She's handles all of our indigent offense. If they qualify, they get to see her, and if she's not available, we have 2 other people that are on our list that we can appoint public defenders to. That can last up sometimes to 12 hours in a day, just a little longer session. Then we have a whole day of probation court, and that's where we bring in all of our probationers if they're completing probation or if they're on a pretrial diversion program, and that can last up to 8 to 10 hours a day. And JCS is our probation company, which is now called Professional Probation Service. And they have 4 probation officers that monitor all of our cases. Court staff functions is court administrator. I assist in every court session. We have 1 clerk and a senior court clerk that assist every court session. One sits by the judge, the other one does all the computer work, and then we have a clerk that will assist all the defendants, help them with their waivers, and just try to navigate them through the system. Then we have 1 clerk that will take payments and assist with questions at the pay window. And then the other 2 clerks are in the office answering the phones and preparing for our next court date. And here are some of the changes that I've made since I've become the court administrator. I've tried to make the biggest change as customer service. That's my number 1 priority, is just trying to get them in and out of there, and hope that they felt like they got a fair chance and that we listened to them. And the other big thing I did is I cross-trained all the clerks, and so they'll know how to do each job just in case someone was out and we needed someone to fill in. We split the court and we moved it, we're still in progress on doing that, but pretty much we stand separate from the PD. And I transferred all the appropriate things to the PD as far as background checks, warrants, and all other jail functions that the police department needs to handle. And then I have required all defendants to prove indigency so we can see if they are able to proceed without counsel, or if they're, need more time to come up with money, or if we need to do community service for them without allowing them to pay a fine. I streamlined the court check-in system, which is, we just make everybody sign in, and we hand them the waivers, and we let them go have a seat and listen to the judge, and then we read over the waivers with them. Let's see. I eliminated the payment plans with the course, with the judge's approval. That seems to be working out great. And then I have encouraged team building among our staff so we can all work together as a team instead of just one person working on this, one person working on that. A court clerk's responsibilities are answering the phones, filing, receiving payments, running criminal histories, driver histories, doing daily deposits. They do a lot of data entry. They enter the tickets. They enter all dispositions on the GBI website. They have to do that within 30 days after the disposition. They transmit dispositions to DDS, and we have to transfer that within 10 days, and DDS is driver services. They create packets for the public defender, for the solicitor, and then they just assist in all other customer service matters. From January to June, total cases that we closed were 4,142 cases. As you can see, 82% of them were adjudicated, and we only transferred 1% over to the state court or superior court. And then other tickets would be like, just like court warnings or just minor stuff that doesn't really get closed out as fast. In that total cases adjudicated, we adjudicated 3,557 with 41% bond forfeiture. The bond forfeiture is just where they come in, they don't come to court, they just pay their fine and they're done. We had 27% plead guilty, 25% nolo contendere, and 4% was put on a pretrial diversion, and we only had 2% that wanted bench trials, so that's a pretty good average. Other tickets that were accrued were 742, and we dismissed 39%, gave court warnings on 33%, we only voided out 9%, and we issued only 20% in bench warrants. The cases that were transferred to Douglas County were mostly transferred to state court, which was 77%, and 23% were felonies, and we couldn't hear those in our court, so we had to transfer them to superior court. Fines and fees collected were $1,277,460.97. Out of that, we pay software fees of $4,807.75. Fees paid to the state and county were $323,028.85, and fines deposited into our general fund was $949,624.37. I broke it down on how the judge and the solicitor handled the cases that were adjudicated, and the judge handled in that period 2,610 tickets that were closed out. The solicitor closed out 249, public defender closed out 92, which 88% of those tickets were handled by the judge. We have 363 cases on probation, and we have a pretrial diversion program, which right now we have 126 people on that. To this date, to the date of those, January to June, we've held 66 bond hearings and prisoner hearings, and 84 court case sessions. And that's it.
Wow, that's very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank y'all for...
Any comments or questions from the council?
Sounds like a job well done, Mr. Mayor Pro
Yes.
Tem.
Thank
It sure
you.
does.
I hope y'all were
Very
pleased.
good. Thank you so much. And you're going to do this in another 6 months? Is that the?
Every 6 months, I'll give y'all a report.
Okay. Well,
All right.
thank you very much. Okay. That was the Public Safety Committee. The next committee is Community and Economic Development Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Mark Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have a couple of items tonight. The first item is appoint one individual to the Douglasville, Douglas County Development Authority to fill a term expiring June 22nd, 2018. For post number 1, you do have an attachment of the individuals that we have interviewed along with their resumes and the other board members' resumes. Anyone have any comment or is there any discussion about this? We will be voting on this, I'm assuming, on a ballot vote on Monday night. Is that correct, Ms. City Manager? Anyone have any questions or comments concerning it? I know we've held the interviews and now have a decision to make on Monday. Okay. We'll move on to the second item. Authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with a selected firm to prepare a redevelopment plan for approximately 250 acres of land surrounding the Highway 92 relocation project. You have the bid tab in front of you where we received 3 bids. This is up for a vote on Monday night. I know that we have had discussion and have had interviews with these 3 potential candidates, and we will be voting on that on Monday night. Is there any question or anyone have any comment? Ms. Hampton, do you have any input on that?
Only comment I would make is just to make certain that everyone reach out to the committee chairman to make certain that you make your comments known about the presentation. As far as all 3 of the presentations, funding has been identified to fund either choice that you would choose. So if funding is a question, we do have the monies in the budget to cover either plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Any question or comment? Okay. We'll move on to the third item, item C, adopt a resolution approving a time-limited performance-based tax incentive, approving of the participation of Project SMART in the city's tax incentive plan, and authorizing the mayor to sign a tax incentive agreement for this purpose. Ms. Hampton, and will there be someone presenting? Come forward.
I'd ask Chris Pumphrey with the Economic Development, Douglas County Development Authority to come forward.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Chris Pumphrey, 8512 Bowden Street, Executive Director, Douglas County Economic Development Authority. It's a pleasure to be in front of you all this evening. Let me step away from that a little bit. Pleasure to be in front of you all this evening. I'm staying on behalf of the City of Douglasville Development Authority, and the board for that authority unanimously recommended that the City Council approve Project SMART to be on the city's tax incentive plan. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the project and then bring up a guest representing the company. But Project SMART plans to develop a co-location data center facility on 44 acres in Douglasville in the Riverside West Business Park. Data centers actually fall within our recently adopted target industries. As you all know, we went through a strategic plan where we identified targeted industries for Douglas County, and data centers fell within that target industry sector. We do target those types of operations. They do make significant tax contributions to the community. They pay our salaries that are well above our average salaries here throughout the community. And they require minimum local services. They're a great addition to the community as we're looking to bring in more high-tech companies, more higher-paying salaries, and highly educated individuals to our community. Myself, along with Councilman Adams and City Manager Hampton, our Development Authority Chair Doug Dean, and our Project Manager Michael Cahill had the pleasure of going to visit the company at one of their facilities in Northern Virginia. And I'll say, at least I will say, I was just thoroughly amazed at their operation and everything that's happening there and around. It was an opportunity for us to become very familiar with their operation, how they do business, the activity that happens within those facilities. And I'd say it was a successful yet tiring trip. Started early in the morning and got back late in the day. So it was a good trip. Like as I mentioned earlier, we do have one representative from the company, Jeff, who will be based here in the area and is an executive with the company. He'll provide a bit more background on the company. He'll provide what he can. To date, the project still remains confidential. We still have to go through bond validation process, closing of the property, and so forth. But I would anticipate before the end of the year, we should be able to have a really nice announcement. And I know Jeff would be really looking forward to that. So I'll have Jeff come up and talk a little bit about the company, and then I'll come back and talk more about the actual property tax incentive plan. So
Thank you, Mr. Pumphrey. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for including us in this process. My name is Jeff Hill. I am from Watkinsville, Georgia. I am presently reside at 1101 Lancaster Court, Watkinsville, Georgia. Presently a student at University of Georgia, Terry College of Business, getting my executive MBA, and I represent Project SMART. Again, thank you for having me. I have no prepared remarks, but I'd love to give you an overview should you have questions with regards to what our capabilities are and what we're doing. We're very excited to be here. Although we have not closed on the property, I will tell you that we're extremely excited to be here in Atlanta. If you look at our organization and what we've done across the last 15 years and some of the other development plans that we have throughout the world, Atlanta is a very good location for us to be in, not to mention the target companies that we focus our time on. Fortune 1000, Fortune 500. We work with a number of those organizations, and we're eager to bring them here from other locations throughout the country to include obviously targeting customers here in Atlanta. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have with regards to our operation, how we do things, why we do them in the way we do. Any questions, please?
I'll open the floor to that. If anyone has a question for Jeff, we'll start on this end and go across. Coach?
The facility in Northern Virginia that y'all went to visit, is it a similar setup with the phases, the different phases, and if so, like what smart phase are y'all in?
A great question. When you look at how we do things from a standpoint of build facilities, we do it very smart. And the reason why we do that is obviously from a financial cost, but also efficiency. Part of that efficiency is to drive efficiency and dollars and financial savings to our customers. And so when you look at the facility that the team actually visited, it is exactly how we're going to build our location here. That is, we actually have 5 locations or 5 facilities in that general area, Northern Virginia, Sterling, Virginia. The facility I believe that Chris and team saw was actually a brand new build. It is in phase 1, I believe, of 3 phases. It has, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, phase 1 has 2 data halls with 60,000 square feet times 2. There's 2 levels, level 1 and level 2, which provides 120,000 square feet of raised floor for those customers. Councilman, did I answer your question? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Just a few questions here. So this is going to be a city tax abatement, or is this going to be a county tax abatement? Okay. So basically, to have you guys come here, we're giving up $1,125,216 for the first 3 years.
Absolutely. Forgive me for asking with respect to the rest of the council members. I'm going to let him answer that. Sure. But are there any additional questions with regards to our organization?
Well, I guess I do have some questions as to that. It's tough as a councilman to make these, give away tax dollars on property or make changes to the zoning when we don't really know who or what we're dealing with.
Who or what we're dealing with regards to the organization, or
what kind of traffic elements is going to come along with this? Is there going to be impact?
Traffic as it relates to physical traffic of cars, vehicles, people, etc.
All right.
When you look at, and forgive me, I'll just jump in to address your questions. If you look at the property, the physical location right now is actually at the end of the analogy I would give is at the end of a cul-de-sac. It's at the back end of the I think the park. They are actually building up to the other additional properties. But when you look at data centers in general, in this industry, the idea is to provide limited traffic that would affect a county, if you will, because the purpose obviously is it's a cool area or environmentally managed area, and the more traffic you have walking through there, it changes things from a cooling standpoint. So to answer your question with regards to traffic, I don't believe that we'll be increasing traffic other than the fact that when we begin to build, traffic will obviously increase within the material and everything else we create there. But during ongoing operations, the goal is limited traffic. And of course, there are customers that will actually be housed in those facilities. That will be driving some of their traffic to include when you look at the original equipment manufacturers such as IBM, Dell, Oracle. They at times support their customers and they bring in technicians either from the general area here or Atlanta to support that equipment.
But you're not putting 100 transfer trucks on the road, are you?
That won't be the case.
Oh, goodness. Okay, 3 drives. How long has your company been in business?
16 years.
Okay.
We started in Houston. It's a combination of a couple of organizations. We started out of Cincinnati when Ma Bell made some changes many years ago, Cincinnati Bell, to include another organization going under the name Project Smart. Our goal was to support those customers who had high availability requirements in a Houston area.
And what type of investment are you going to have in the center?
With regards to the financials,
Yeah.
I believe the investment that we were making, I believe, is roughly $200 million.
Okay. So you're planning on being there a while?
The plan, part of the role that I have is to actually grow that facility. The example I gave you earlier with regard to Northern Virginia, generally what happens when we enter an area, the goal is to actually expand.
Okay.
So if you look at Northern Virginia, we have five physical facilities. Right now, we're starting in Atlanta in an environment that's very much saturated with a number of these organizations, and so we're going to start here, and the idea is to grow.
Okay. So at the end of year 4 or 5, you're not going to leave an empty box and be
If
gone.
I have anything to do with it, that's not the plan.
Okay.
Absolutely
All right.
not. The idea there is to have a full box and then to identify additional opportunities to where we can add more boxes, if you will. It's a great analogy. Legos or boxes, if you will, work just fine.
Okay. Well, thank you for the questions. It's tough to making these decisions when we're giving stuff away to get stuff, and then sometimes we don't always get stuff. So it sounds like you've got a great organization that's going to be very limited impact on the community, and sounds like you're going to be here a while. So
That's the plan. And if you should have any additional questions, I'm happy to sit down with you or any of the other council members, provide you more detail.
thank you. I
with who
appreciate
we
it.
are.
Yeah. Good deal.
Gentlemen?
I picture this as an incubator for server farms. So, the analogy is an incubator for office space. This is an incubator for server farms.
So the analogy is very correct. I'll give you an additional analogy, which I've kind of made up on my own. It is what I call cloud real estate. And everyone's familiar with the term cloud, but when you look at Northern Virginia is a very good example. The reason why Northern Virginia is so popular from a data center standpoint is because you have all the cloud providers there. You have the Amazons, you have the Googles who are also here. You also have the Salesforce.coms and Oracles. And so they are server farms, but the access is the connectivity with the fiber, and it is a giant room. Happy to show you pictures, which I have, that'll provide a visual representation of what that actually looks like. When we first build these facilities, the halls are empty, right? The data hall is empty, and so it looks like a big, forgive me, an ice skating rink, right? And it's very exciting because the opportunity to fill that and support customers with high availability requirements, such as public safety or cloud providers as well, they go a long way for us. And so we're very excited about that.
Do you have like the programming staff on site, or they're going to be at another facility?
So we do monitor We have multiple monitoring locations throughout the U.S. So we have one in Virginia, and we have a monitoring station in Dallas as well. They monitor the mechanicals associated with keeping the environmental squared away. We do it very effectively from a standpoint of monitoring, but we do have resources on site that will help should there be addressing additional issues. As part of that, there's maintenance programs with regard to providing those level of service level agreements to our customers who require 100% uptime. And so when you can provide those 100% SLAs, service level agreements, we need people on site to maintain that equipment, test the equipment, so that going forward, those customers have that confidence and they believe in the product that we offer. I think that answered your question.
Yes, and I know that we had some issues when Google came here, and I was on the Water and Sewer Authority, and the cooling towers and such, because that's going to be very important
Yes.
for your facility, is to have it stay cool. So are you working with the Water and Sewer Authority on any of that to? Yeah.
So we've had discussions early on as far as what the site requirements are, utilities requirements or anything like that. Their process is different than the Google model and won't require the same level of water support as Google did.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much, and glad you're here.
Well, thank you for having us. As you can sense, I'm very excited. In fact, I was out at the property earlier today, taking a look and see how things are going, and I will tell you that our organization is very, very pleased and very excited to be here in Atlanta sometime soon. So I thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Last but not least, of course, Mr. Siegel, this being in your ward, and I'm sure you will bring that to everyone's attention.
I don't have to now, do I?
I didn't want to steal your thunder, but I wanted to make sure you had the opportunity.
Nothing at all?
Thank you, Mr. Field. Oh, no. As he said, that is my street, Riverside Parkway. You know, I drive on there every day. That's my ward. That's my neighborhood. And that's my neighbors.
Yep.
So we've had a lot of distribution centers come in along there.
Yes, sir.
Which definitely has an impact on the people who live there negatively with all the truck traffic.
Yes.
A data center, on the other hand, we don't have truck traffic.
You don't have
We
truck
only
traffic.
have a few cars going in, so
Right.
it doesn't have such an impact on us.
Right.
On the other hand, it doesn't provide as many jobs, so we weigh the benefits and the detriments for any kind of development that come in, and it's not always easy to make a decision. In this case, though, the IT environment has evolved, and it's still a young industry since it started, where when we started having file servers, companies kept them on site.
Yep.
Then they realized, well, there's security issues if you do that. Let's have a data center off-site, still their own data centers. But now it's changed, and that's why you're young. You've only been around 16 years with these co-location data centers where businesses can have their servers in somebody else's facility who's going to make sure they're secure and safe and running and operating properly. So we have seen other data centers come into Douglas County and the city of Douglasville, as you mentioned, and I think we're primed for that. We've got great connections to fiber here. We have great providers of electricity here, and that's one of the ways that we look at the economic impact of the data centers coming in. They use electricity. The electricity providers provide a franchise fee to the city. So that's part of the economic impact, not just the jobs they provide or the property taxes they provide or the multiplier effect that comes with those employees who are here spending money locally. They may buy homes locally or they may already live here locally. So it's definitely more than just the property tax impact. But I believe Mr. Pumphrey is going to tell us more about that it's not as what some might think in terms of losing all property tax revenues. That's not the case. So thank you for being here. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
And we'll see what we can do for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Councilman. And again, I appreciate all your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
We'll
you.
turn it back over to Mr. Pumphrey for any closing comments and then questions that anyone may have of him.
Yes, sir. So I want to talk a little bit more in depth about the operation, and you kind of heard the explanation of what they do and how they do, and then you'll better understand how we structured this incentive plan for them. As Jeff mentioned, they are the owners of the facility. They built the facility, all the mechanics that go into making it into a data center. And then what happened, that investment is what Jeff mentioned is roughly $206 million. The $206 million is laid out in a phased approach. So you've got, the first part of that is $72 million in phase one. I'm going to get my numbers mixed up, but I believe $66 million in phase two, and then $68 million in phase three. Each of those where you see as it has a job count, 3 on phase 1, 1 on phase 2, and 1 on phase 3. So it appears, we're providing an incentive for 5 jobs and $206 million of investment. The jobs that we're doing, and because they are the owners of the facility, the jobs have to be tied to the owner and to their investment. And so those employees are employees of Project SMART. However, they do have a number of contractors that are committed to the facility on a daily basis. And in order for the business to really be in business, you have to have the clients that invest the servers into the facilities. So the program that's before you is simply an incentive for Project SMART, who will invest roughly $206 million, I'll say conservatively $206 million over the 3 phases and create the 5 jobs. On top of that, the clients, as they build out these data halls, will invest the personal property, which are the servers. It is estimated conservatively for the 3 phases that is an investment of conservatively $600 million. So it's 3 times the size of the investment made by Project SMART. But that $600 million investment is all personal property, and it is not tied to the property tax incentive. And so it is 100% taxed personal property going to the schools, county, and the city of Douglasville. So those are dollars that you can count on. So our investment for the project is basically helping them become competitive to recruit, bring clients into the facility, and grow the facility. The more competitive they become, the better off, the more they grow, and hopefully look for that next phase 4, 5, and 6 to build in the facility. So what we do have is we're looking at roughly at about the end of that 3 phases is about 48 people. And that 48 people is covered amongst the Project SMART employees and the contractors and the client employees that are housed in the facility. So the commitment is on 5 and the incentive is tied to the 5 and the 206, but we're really talking about 48 people being at that facility. Furthermore, as Councilman Siegel mentioned earlier, the electricity expenditure on that is also a significant addition to the tax digest as well. And so they will be paying sales taxes on that electricity, which will in turn go to your things like your SPLOST, your eSPLOST, and LOST as well. So I mean, we truly believe it's a benefit to the community as a whole. As we are growing in that sector, we are seeing more of these technology companies that are looking at our community. As everyone is very familiar with the presence that Google has, but they're probably not as familiar with the others that are around the area. Digital Realty Trust has operations here in Douglas as well, where you've got AT&T and Savvis, PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the major accounting firms in the globe. Their data center is here in Douglas County as well. And earlier this year, we announced Switch is going to be investing into 1 million square feet of co-location data center space as well here in Douglas County. So it's really exciting to see this sector grow. And as we've heard a lot about the truck traffic and things like that, this definitely is not one of those contributors. The last thing I will mention, from a construction standpoint, there'll be significant construction jobs that are there in year 1, that are back again in year 3, year 5, year 6, and year 7. So it's a constant build out of those facilities. And hopefully we get to see more of what we saw in Virginia, where we go from 1 facility to 2, 3, 4, or maybe 5. And we definitely have the land and opportunities to grow that here.
Any questions of council for Mr. Pumphrey or comments? I will add, Mr. Pumphrey, as he mentioned, did have Ms. Hampton, myself, and a couple of the members of the Development Authority visit that site, or a site similar to that. And I was very impressed but from a layperson's standpoint. I think, Mr. Pumphrey, what you're saying is we're being requested to give a tax incentive on a $206 million project over the term of 3 phases in order to attract $600+ million worth of personal property, which is fully taxable. And I was very impressed. I've been in the small construction industry for a long time, but I was so impressed to see the way these build-outs are done and the detail that is provided when you're walking around on a raised floor and you pull up a floor panel and you're 3 to 4 foot drop, and that's where all the business is actually going on. That is very impressive for the size of these structures that we did in fact look at. So,
Councilman Adams, I just had one last question. I'm sorry. The actual building of the site, will local contractors have opportunity to? How does that work as far as bidding that out, or they already have somebody in mind? Or
Good question. Jeff can answer that for you.
Good question.
So to answer the question, yeah, the plan is to leverage local contractors from a standpoint of our representation, actually the design, the physical build, the management, and leveraging local resources. Being that we're based in Dallas, we don't plan to bring any resources there. I believe we plan to leverage Atlanta-based resources. In fact, they're anxiously waiting for us to get started. So I believe that answers your question.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you bet.
Look forward to working with you. Anything else, Mr. Pumphrey? Okay. We will then address this on Monday night concerning that item C. We appreciate the input. Any other question or comment? Okay. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, that's all we have under Community and Economic Development tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item I have is Planning and Development Committee, and that's also chaired by Councilman Mark Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have several items, 2 items tonight under Planning and Development. The first is holding a public hearing and consider a request for a special land use permit for amusement or recreational attraction indoor, except fortune teller, for property zoned CBD, Central Business District, for .12 acres at 8440 East Courthouse Square in Land Lot 16, District 1, Section 5C, Parcel 10. Application is made by William Brad Kimmel. Is Mr. Kimmel here, please, or a representative? Would you please come forward, sir? While Mr. Kimmel is approaching, realizing this is a public hearing, we are required to have statement by the applicant, which I believe, Ms. Acker, is a period of up to 30 minutes. Is that correct? We'd then have opportunity for anyone speaking, any additional speakers for or against, at 5 minutes each. And we will open the public hearing and give Mr. Kimmel the opportunity to present. Go forward, sir, and how are you?
Sure. So my name is William Bradley Kimmel. I am representing 2 other business partners of mine that unfortunately could not be here tonight. One of them has a 4-day-old baby and was not able to make it tonight. But we are seeking, looking to open
Pardon
up.
me, Mr. Kimmel. Could you give, for the record, for our viewing audience, name and address for the record, please, your address?
Oh, address is 250 Ralston Road, Powder Springs, Georgia, 30127.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, sir.
No, that's all right. So we were looking to open up an escape room business in downtown Douglasville. Happy to expand a little bit more on what an escape room business is.
Yes, please.
It is relatively new to North America. They've been around for quite a while in Asia and Europe. They're just starting to make their way to North America, and you'll see them popping up. Started in most of the city areas and then have now expanded into other areas. We are very familiar with the escape room industry because me and my 2 business partners opened up a business about 1.5 years ago called Escape Woods, which is located on our property in Powder Springs. It is a unique concept. We were the first ones to open up an outdoor escape room type concept in the world. And we have seen a lot of great success with that business. But so we've learned a lot of lessons in the escape room industry, even though our business, Escape Woods, is somewhat unique. But we are looking, we think it would be a big opportunity for us and a big opportunity for downtown Douglasville to open up an escape room business in downtown Douglasville. You know, escape room businesses and our business, Escape Woods, we know from firsthand, bring in a lot of family-oriented folks. Also bring in a lot of team building, corporate type events. People want to, just by the nature of an escape room, so if anyone's not familiar with an escape room, they're typically the size of about 8 to 10 people go into a room. The rooms are themed, so for example, we have some games we have one called the Bunker, one called the Dig. So they're themed around different themes, and you, and whether it's your family members, your friends, or your coworkers, have to figure out how to solve a bunch of clues, unlock locks, unlock doors to figure out how to escape within 1 hour. They've grown very fast here in Atlanta. You see them popping up all over the Atlanta area. You know, some of the successes we've seen with Escape Woods, like I said, it brings in a lot of family-oriented people, brings in a lot of team building, people that just want to get together with their teammates, do something totally unique, and by the nature of an escape room business, you have to collaborate and work as a team. So you see a lot of team building, and then you also, the third big just segment we see is obviously just friends wanting to get together and have a good time. One of the drawbacks we have with our current location, Escape Woods, is a lot of our customers, the majority of our customers, want to pair an escape room game with a meal or a night out. We don't have that in our current location. We're located on Sleepy Hollow Farm, which is a farm my father-in-law started back in 1980 doing Christmas trees. We've recently expanded that to pumpkin patch, corn maze, some other activities, things like that. But with our current location, we don't have restaurants or anything around there. So one of the things we always tell people when they ask us, you know, can you recommend a good restaurant? We always send them downtown Douglasville because it's the closest place. But we would love to be down here because there's already some great restaurants, very unique restaurants that I think people would love to pair more of a night out with their family and friends, whereas, you know, an escape room game is 1 hour and dinner is 1 hour. They can kind of extend the night and do eat out and do an escape room game, and it's just a nice combination, and it's something that a lot of our customers are seeking right now, and we can offer. But yeah, we've learned a lot over the year and a half that we've been running Escape Woods. Me and my two business partners, you know, we have 4 full-time employees, and then during our busy season in October, we hire about 20 seasonal employees as well. But me and my two business partners are very engaged and involved in the business, so we've learned a lot of how to run a successful business, how to market the business, how to grow the business. So I think we've learned a lot of lessons over the years, and we're really interested in opening up an escape room in downtown Douglasville. I think it's something that would be very unique to downtown Douglasville, and I think would add a lot of value and a lot of entertainment to the folks that are already coming to downtown Douglasville. One of the additional elements that I will bring up is that with Escape Woods today, I can say firsthand that about 70% of our business is actually people coming from outside the area. So it is a very unique business where people are actually coming from some of the surrounding counties, even from Atlanta, Athens. So it's not just the local community coming into these businesses. You also do draw some folks from outside that just want to do an escape room. They've done different escape rooms before, and so they try out all the different escape rooms. So you know, it does add a lot of unique entertainment to the local community, but also does attract some additional people into the area, which I think is a nice addition as well. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments from council? We'll start there with.
Yes, sir. I was wondering how kid-friendly this type of business is.
Yeah, so it's, you know, we have, like I said, several different businesses. With the Sleepy Hollow Farm, it's more younger kids and families and stuff like that. Escape Woods is really, an escape room business in general, is really attracted or targeted towards people 10 and up. When you have kids younger than 10 years old, the challenges and the puzzles and things like that of an escape room business is a little bit challenging. So we usually do recommend 10 and up, but that does draw a lot of, you know, birthday parties, just family events, stuff like that. And sometimes kids younger than 10 do tag along, especially if it's with their older siblings and stuff like that. But
I guess I was wondering, you know, critical thinking skills that would be involved in this type of business and with children. So you're describing maybe middle school age that would be interested. I was just wondering if you were going to reach out to the school system and maybe try to do some partnering with them and their field trips and things like that.
Yep, absolutely. One thing I will say about critical thinking, sometimes one thing I've noticed is that kids are actually sometimes better at these type of things than we adults are. Sometimes we overthink things, and some of the 10-year-old groups that actually come into our business actually do much better than adult groups, which is interesting. But yes, we definitely do. Again, with Sleepy Hollow Farm, we do have a lot of field trips and a lot of relationships with all of the Paulding County, Douglas County, Cobb County schools. And pretty much all of October, 4 days a week, during the week, we run field trips through the business. So we already do have some good relationships with some of the schools. So we'll definitely look to continue to partner with those schools. Yep.
I'm so unfamiliar with this, okay?
Okay.
And, but do you have like different venues? Like, so, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to do it this way.
Yep.
And then a week later, or can I call and say, okay, I want an escape room that does this? You know, I'm totally unfamiliar with this.
Yeah, it's a good question. So right now with Escape Woods, we have 6 themed games. So you have your choice of 6 different games with Escape Woods, and with this location, I think it would probably be, again, up to like 3 to 4 or 5 games. Everything is paid for and signed up for in advance on our website. So like if you have escape room A, B, and C, you'll have a time slot for each one of those on our website all the way through the day. And you and your friends go and sign up for those time spots. So it's not like a general admission thing where you just show up. You do have to book in advance and come. So you'll have, 4 or 5 different, 3 or 4, whatever it ends up being, different themed escape rooms. And one of the things we do see is we do see people doing every one of our games today with the Escape Woods, because they come and do the first one, they love it so much, they come back and do all of them. And then we do every couple months, month or two, since we do have a lot of repeat customers, we do try and revamp the games, change up the clues, things like that. And that's actually one thing we're getting ready to do with Escape Woods. We just went through our very busy October season, and it's time for a refresh, so we're just getting ready to refresh and revamp all of our games. But every game has kind of like a storyline to it. We really try to make one of my business partners has actually been in the movie industry 30 years. He's originally from Hollywood. He moved down here when the movie industry moved down here. He runs the biggest prop house in Atlanta as part-time. And one of the things we really try to do is make people feel like they're in the movies. So if one of our games is called The Bunker, we really try to build up the storyline in advance on the website. Our employees, whoever's running that game, so you have like what's called a game master running each game. Their job is to really get them into the game, make them feel like they're in the movies. We've done some escape rooms in the past where it's very, some of them are very well done, and some of them are just, you're in the 8:30 group, go in this room, good luck. So we really do try and build up the storyline and really make people feel like they're in that movie or that story.
And
Does that help clarify?
yes, and each session is like an hour?
1 hour. So you usually show up 20 minutes early just to get checked in, sign your waivers, all that, and then you have 1 hour to try and escape. If you do escape, great, but if you don't, you still have that 1 hour. So yes, you have the 1 hour time spot.
Where am I escaping to?
So usually you go into a room, you get locked in there, and then you have to figure out all the clues. All the clues are kind of linear and they connect together, and the ultimate goal is to escape back out the door. Sometimes we give them something they have to do. So like in our Escape Woods game, The Bunker, they have to actually find the alien specimen and escape with it. Sometimes you're just trying to escape out the door. Sometimes you're actually trying to achieve a mission. We have another game called The Dig, where you're trying to find the ancient artifact and escape. So So yes, you're trying to escape out a final door.
Interesting, very interesting. Where is this going to be on, in what building are we talking about here on?
It's right across Courthouse Square from
Corner
the
of Broad
museum.
Street and East Courthouse Square, two-story building. I'll give you a little history in a minute, my history of it.
Okay.
And today it's got like an attorney's sign at the bottom, yeah.
Yes.
So how many escape rooms are you going to have in this particular building then?
So if we had the top floor, we've already looked at we walked through there several times. You could have 3 escape rooms in the top floor. Yep.
Very good. That's all I have.
What about you, Mr. Siegel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Kimmel, for bringing this before us. Question about the building, since you're using the top floor. Is there an elevator?
There is not an elevator today.
Okay, so you will not be able to accommodate those who can't go upstairs, correct?
Correct. And I am not actually the owner of the building, so Brandon Thompson is actually probably be able to speak better to the actual building itself.
Come on up, Mr. Thompson.
Good evening, sir.
Brandon Thompson, 8327 Office Park Drive, Douglasville, 30134. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you for having me.
Sure.
I'm here as the one of a couple of different owners of this property, as well as a stakeholder in several buildings right here in downtown Douglasville. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have for the building in specific. But I did want to put this in front of you guys that we have spoken several times, and I appreciate you guys' willingness to listen to me to help revitalize some things here in downtown Douglasville. I think the property itself is unique, and these guys have a wonderful vision for it, and I would love for him to elaborate on the story, what their vision is for my property here. But my goal as a mid to late 30s business owner here in downtown Douglasville that is raising a family is to create a community feel with different things that I do, and I do everything intentional. And this story here was pulled together from me putting a Facebook post out there to the world and saying, I've got a vacant building. I don't want to put just anybody in there. I want something unique for downtown Douglasville. It got pushed over to these guys, and since then we've connected and came before you. We were put into the Douglas County Sentinel a couple of different times. Don't know if you guys know it, but these guys are very professional. I've been to different escape rooms all across Atlanta. I've been to their property as well, and they have the Hollywood look. They've got the storyline. On top of that, they also have I hate to say it like this, but a cult following. They've been on Fox 5 News in a story. They've had their property filmed on for Stranger Things Season 2. These guys are very famous in this industry, and I'm not knocking other people that have brought this in after the fact when that story was released in Douglas County Sentinel. But I do believe that we were the ones that were going to be first in this area, but at the same time, we can build a community around Douglasville to have entertainment that is family friendly for the scene, as well as hopefully grow our restaurant base and things like that. My goal here to end this part of the talk is to help build that up with some of the private capital I have available. I can grab my hands to, and that's what my goal is here. But Mr. Siegel, I would love to answer your questions about the property.
Thank you. I love the idea of an escape room downtown Douglasville. I think it's a great addition. But what concerns me about this particular building is bringing all these people in upstairs. I don't even know what this is. It just a stairwell that's like hidden inside walls, or it's an open stairwell, and you know, we can't. It's not ADA compliant, so those who can't climb stairs can't participate. So that's where my concern lies, not with an escape room business itself.
Well, speaking with Mr. Kimmel and his two business partners, we have talked about taking the bottom floor and advertising that as one of the games that is available for the challenges or I don't know how you politically state that, but the ADA or compliance, and as well as having separate rooms upstairs. That way, my next door neighbor is in a wheelchair. You know, she could easily go into the room downstairs. He said that there would be 3 to 4 games in this building, and that is one of our goals. Obviously, we're in the early stages of this, but we have been working on this as we have pushed to rezone the CBD district out here. We have also met several times together to talk about how we were going to flow this through my structure and my building. That's part of the plan right there, is to offer that and not to be discriminative. I'm in the real estate world, and that is the whole basis, is not to discriminate. And obviously ADA compliance is something that we are hoping that we can abide by, and I'm pretty sure that we can do that.
Now, what about the other tenant in your building? Are they going to be impacted by this?
So we are having a discussion with them to possibly build a wall. I am speaking with my property manager to see if they may want to relocate with them or to one of my other properties that is right up the road. That has not happened yet. I don't know how they want to respond to that, but their lease is up in early spring. My plans are possibly not to renew that lease.
And for parking, there's plenty of parking in the parking structure, which is just half a block away, as well as on Courthouse Square and Broad Street and Church Street. So I don't see parking being an issue. So basically, yeah, if you could include the lower floor for accessibility reasons, I think that would be great. But wish you good luck. Thank you. No other questions?
Any other questions of council of the two individuals here? Okay, I will ask then, is there anyone else here that would speak in favor of this application? And if not, is there anyone here that would speak in opposition to this application? Seeing none, I will close this portion of the public hearing, and now I'll make my comment so that Mr. Yaki doesn't feel so bad. When the coach mentioned younger people being included in this, I've attended two. I've been in a group that was in one in Nashville and then one over in Atlanta, and I'm thankful that we had younger people with us, or else I would still be there. But it is a very unique experience and a very fun experience, and I like the idea. Any other question or comment concerning this? Okay, if you all will come back on Monday night, gentlemen, we will have a decision and a vote on this special land use permit for you. Thank each of you for being here. Appreciate your interest in our city and your investment. Thank you so much. Okay, we have one other public hearing, and that is, pardon me, hold a public hearing and consider a proposed ordinance to revise provisions of the zoning ordinance on building facades. Again, this being a public hearing, we do need to provide time for the applicant, which I'm assuming Ms. Hampton or Ms. Wright or Ms. Littlefield, I believe, is going to handle this.
I'll try to help you tonight.
Okay. Go right ahead, Ms. Hampton. Name. Go right ahead, Ms. Littlefield.
I think I'll do it myself.
Name and address for the record, please. Obviously, I don't know it, Ms. Littlefield. I'm sorry.
No problem. Susan Littlefield, P.O. Box 219, Douglasville, Georgia. Mr. Chairman, the ordinance comes back to you in the same shape that it was referred. You will recall that it will consolidate your provisions with regard to building facades into one section in your ordinance, and that it prescribes maximums for permitted facade materials according to zoning category. They are listed as percentages, but most of them have a group of materials that can be used 100% if you want to do that. The zoning board passed this with a special stipulation that the list be slimmed down to simply have a list of permitted materials, which would be allowed in any district. And it's in your hands to either pass it as there is or ask me to make changes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Littlefield. I know that this has come about in an effort by the city to try to be in what I had recommended, something a little bit more inclusive and a little more receptive to other forms rather than red brick and mortar, because not all buildings and not all facades necessarily show their best in that material. Is there anyone else here to speak that would like to speak concerning this, in favor of this? Come forward, sir. How are you, Mr. Miller? You know the drill.
I think I do. Terry Miller, 6822 Wood Creek Lane, Douglasville. I would like to speak in regards to amending the facade ordinance, speaking from several different perspectives, having been on city council at the time when we first changed the ordinance, and having opposed that change at the time. Also speaking as an architect and a designer, I just want to express my encouragement to the city council to look at this opportunity to, especially in light of now the fact that we've got a new master plan that's underway for downtown Douglasville. We have to look at the opportunity that presents and allow for that flexibility on the design side. And I remember at the debate at the one that we had close to 10 years ago, I think it was, when we passed what we affectionately called the brick ordinance at the time, that brick was such a good material, it's durable, and it's a wonderful, and it is a fantastic material. I design using brick all the time, but it's not the only material. You can have beautiful buildings built out of any material. You can have a gorgeous steel building, you can have a gorgeous concrete building. If you do, it's really a matter of the quality of the design more than the quality of the material. And I would definitely encourage council to look at it from that perspective, is that we should be encouraging good design, not encouraging particular materials. So, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, I'll close that portion of the public hearing, then I'll ask if there are any comments of council. And we'll start on this end. Yes, sir. Mr. Miller? Anyone? Mr. Siegel?
I just want to say I was a little nervous watching the countdown clock on the screen. It wasn't counting down. And with Mr. Miller up there speaking, I was really getting nervous. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. If there's no other comment, we'll take this item up then on Monday night. And I appreciate the time that it's taken to do this. That's all that I have, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next item is Parks and Recreation Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Chris Watts.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business tonight in Parks and Recreation.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee, I'm the chair of the Finance Committee, and I have one item: adopt an ordinance amending section 2.52-50 of the administration ordinance to revise provisions relating to air and train travel and meals reimbursement for elected officials. Who is going to handle that one?
Really, Ms. Littlefield will. This is just in response to your most recent discussion on travel that you had when you voted to approve flight travel for the mayor a few weeks ago.
Mr. Chairman, this proposal is to allow rail or air travel for any destination for training where the destination is more than 250 miles from City Hall. It would not require separate approval if the destination is that far. It also clarifies our meal rule, which is that meal expenses paid, whether you eat the meal or not, whether some friend pays for it or not, it's paid to you. However, no meal expense is to be paid if it's a meal is provided by the sponsor or the event.
Okay. So that's basically the only two things that we're dealing with.
Yes, sir.
Any comments or questions from the council?
I just had a couple elected officials. They still need approval. They still need to come before mayor and council, or whatever the process is for getting approved for events outside the state.
This does not change the permitted events.
Okay. And also, as far as the types of travel, I just want to make sure I didn't misunderstand that. If someone, an elected official, has to use air, they still have to come before mayor and council to request?
No, sir. If the destination is more than 250 miles from City Hall, they would have the option to use air or rail or to go by car
And so that does not have to be approved?
without new approval.
Because I'm just wondering, I mean, it could be a matter of convenience and not necessarily cost that factors in to a decision by any elected official. So,
That is correct, Ms. Littlefield. It may be helpful to add in language to have a cost comparison, if that's what you would like. I think that's similar to what we have in the employee travel ordinance, that you use whatever mode is most economical. We were just trying to make it where it, in a sense, makes sense. For instance, the most recent trip that some of your colleagues are on, it's about that same mile range, so you could either drive or you can fly, and the cost difference was about the same.
right, in that particular case, that's true. And I know we're talking about distances that are within close proximity, like the next state over. I'm not talking about something in Utah, but I like the idea of transparency of at least talking about it, so the folks don't think that we're just using this mode of transportation because it's more convenient, but not necessarily cost effective. And there's nothing to stop that from occurring the way it's written now.
Could I speak to that?
Yes, ma'am.
We had some discussion about that as the city manager and I were putting this together, and certainly we can put that in, but the council will have to understand that a cost-effective analysis is not always going to show the same thing on one day as it does on the next. Airfares change daily, hourly sometimes. So once you have approved it as being more cost-effective, the next day it may not be, even before that trip is taken.
Well, I agree. But if the trip, if you know you're going to go a month ahead of time, then you set it up. You don't wait till the last minute to make the travel arrangements. I don't know. I'm just asking here.
Mr. Chair, could I comment on that? And Coach Watts, in reply to your statement, I think your initial statement was that this was being looked at as a matter of convenience, and I think that is exactly what has brought us to this position right now to try to make a decision on, because of the convenience and the other scheduling conflicts, I believe, that may have occurred with the travel to and from the League of Cities meeting. I also agree with you that I would like to see it from a transparency standpoint, that it be approved if it's going to be something out of the ordinary. And if we approve this particular ordinance change, then there would not have to be any approval if it's more than 250 miles away. Is that correct, Ms. Littlefield?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and to go along with that, yes, airfare is fluctuating all the time, and a lot of the airlines, if you do it in advance, you can get one heck of a deal. And I know my daughter's flying here from Austin, and she's getting a round trip ticket for $76. So, yeah, yes.
And that's the National League of Cities, just using that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
That's been something that's planned way in advance. So if you're gonna fly and you get approval, then you could get a good rate. But if
Yeah, and that's going to be on an item basis, because there might be some reason why you have to get home.
and I understand that,
Yeah.
that's gonna come up, but I think that's something that should come before mayor and council, whoever is sitting up here.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I believe I would add this also. In a perfect world, I would hope that we could be responsible enough to make plans to take advantage of a lower airfare. But I believe you have been a part of a situation in the last few months where your arrangements to fly somewhere on behalf of the city and the mayor's replacement as Mayor Pro Tem may not have allowed that. And I would just hesitate that we just open the door for flying rather than driving. I know this is something that's relatively new, as we have representatives that may be wanting to be included in activities further away from our city. and it's something that we just have to address and hope that we can, in my opinion, that we can be responsible and transparent about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely. Okay.
Would you prefer then to see a redraft that does an analysis, or are you looking to examine this continuing on a case-by-case basis and pass it individually?
You all are looking at it, doing it on a case-by-case basis.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing more nods than just yours.
They say no, what's the objective criteria that the council would use to decide how that works? The advantage of this ordinance that you're talking about is there's no objective criteria. Over 250 miles you can fly. Otherwise, I think you would have to address what objective criteria will be used.
I think cost, it boils down to spending the people's money. And so if I'm going to Miami, is it cheaper to fly if I know ahead of time? Or is it cheaper to drive? I got a feeling it might be cheaper to fly in that instance. I don't know, but if you get a ticket in advance, you can fly fairly cheap to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, but the mileage could add up going 700 and some odd miles one way. So that might be more expensive. So I understand your point, and I agree with it. And I don't know the answer to it other than maybe the bottom line is the cost of travel.
If you don't mind, the only thing I would say to caution on cost is it's along the lines of what Ms. Littlefield mentioned. So there are other things that add into the cost, including things like baggage that shouldn't really change, but also what happens if someone changes their flight. What happens if someone has to make alternate arrangements? That has happened. So you all may come in and approve a flight at a certain amount for a certain cost, and then an individual has to make other arrangements, and that goes outside. And the difficulty I would say for myself and for staff, is that we're preparing your travel based on the ordinance. So things that are outside of the ordinance, I end up having to make the call. So I would much rather prefer that whichever direction you guys go in, that, it can kind of be as clear as possible if it can be. But there have been instances where flights have changed, and, we would just like to know how to cover those, even if it means that if you have to change your flight, maybe, there's some alternative arrangement or something, but that has happened.
So we're back to, what do you want?
I would also think that we would need to take into consideration, if we're talking about more than 250 miles and it was cost effective to drive, then I would assume that you would then need to look at the total package, in that you would probably need to stay overnight. And that would need to be then a part of the total cost analysis when you begin to make that decision. So I don't know that we haven't come full circle in saying maybe what Ms. Littlefield has proposed it makes the most sense, because when you look at the total package, and as you've said, that the airfare could change, you could have to change a flight. I'm just interested, and I think Councilman Watts feels the same way, I'm just interested in transparency and being responsible and conservative with the citizens' money. That's all.
Let me suggest something. One of the things I could do to aid you in transparency is to draft another paragraph at the end that says that all these travel arrangements will be done by the same process that we use for employees, which is that you fill out a travel request estimating your expenses, and then at the end you fill out a travel expense report which shows what your actual was, and that will aid in transparency, at least after the fact. Yes, sir.
And that's another thing.
Well,
this is really.
I would think you'd want to do it for all trips, because you're going to get meal expense anyway, and we need to know how many meals we're talking about and how many miles we're talking about. Somebody is doing this for you already.
I believe I know who that is.
Yes.
So, okay, so that's.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so
Thank
let's
you.
go ahead and add that to
All right.
that. And then we'll see it on Monday, and then we'll vote on it.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Why don't I take those two apart, put in the clarification with the meals, with the part about the reporting, and then make the other one a separate ordinance so that they all don't live or die together. All right.
Very good. All right. And that's all I have for the Finance Committee. The next item is Information Technology Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. No business tonight.
Thank you very much. Maintenance and Sanitation, that's chaired by Councilman Mike Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business tonight under maintenance and sanitation.
Okay. Transportation, that is going to be chaired by, it is chaired by Councilwoman LaShawn Burdani, since she's absent tonight. Mr. Siegel, Councilman Siegel will take care of that one for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We do have two items. First item is to adopt a resolution identifying the city streets to be included in the city's submission to GDOT under the 2018 LMIG resurfacing program.
Yes, Mr. Roberts mentioned that he has not gotten any feedback, positive or negative, toward his recommendation, so he is putting forth recommendation for option number 1, which is attached to your item. If you all are comfortable with that, that's what you will be voting on Monday night.
Thank you. The next item is to authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1 with Bartow Paving Company. Hold on, sorry about that. Any comments or questions on that first item from Mayor Pro Tem or the rest of the council? No, okay, then I'll go on to the second one. A little eager here. Authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1 with Bartow Paving Company Incorporated to increase the scope of work of their agreement of October 15th, 2017 for LMIG 2017 repaving by adding 800 linear feet of flexible material to seal substandard road surface at an additional cost of $31,000.
Yes, sir. This additional $31,000 can be covered within the original budget, and the Permaflex material will actually allow the life of the road to last a bit longer. So that's been added. That was not in the original scope of work, so that has been added to the project.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton. Any comments or questions from Mayor Pro Tem or the rest of the council? No? If not, then Chairperson LaShawn Burdani will be back on Monday when she can make motions on those. No other business, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you very much. Personnel and Organizational Committee, that's also chaired by Councilman Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have one item. Adopt a resolution providing for one-time special holiday season payments to City of Douglasville employees.
Yes, sir. This is the holiday season payment that over the past few years, Mayor and Council have been gracious enough to provide for all of the employees. Attached in the resolution, you will see the specifics of the program. With the passage of this resolution, the employees will receive this benefit next month.
Comments or questions?
Just one. Is it the same amount this year as last year?
It is, yes, sir.
That's all I have.
We will take that up on Monday. No other items, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item committee we have is Ordinance and Intergovernmental Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Mike Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business tonight.
Thank you very much. Education and Training, that's chaired by Councilman Sam Davis, and tonight it will be Councilman Chris Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We have no business tonight on education and training.
Okay, thank you very much. Other business, do we have any other business that needs to come before this meeting? Okay. Attorney Joel Dotson?
No business, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you very much. Assistant?
Yes, sir. I need to announce that the quarry litigation is at an end at this time. The plaintiffs have voluntarily dismissed their lawsuit. They can refile it within the next 6 months, or they can repetition for rezoning, the same rezoning, again at any time. We don't know the reason. We can speculate, but they did not tell us why they dismissed.
So the quarry is no longer
It's not pending litigation.
not pending litigation anymore?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's good news. Okay, and our chief is not chief tonight.
Deputy Chief.
Deputy Chief.
I do have one item. We are hosting a chat with the chief and the sheriff tomorrow at You Got Next Barber Shop. That's located at 2127 Fairburn Road. The sheriff, Sheriff Pounds, and Chief Sparks will be there speaking with citizens. It's just a question and answer session. It starts at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon, so everyone's invited to drop in and chat with the chief and the sheriff.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Hampton?
Only thing that I will remind you all that next week is a short week. We are closed for Thanksgiving Day and that following Friday. So when we have our Monday meeting, we will only have a few more days before City Hall is officially closed for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Thank you very much. Okay, comments from citizens and delegates. It's your time to speak to us. And it looks like we don't have anybody jumping out of their seats. Okay, well, thank you very much. Staff reports. We have a staff report concerning the potential refinancing of the Douglasville Conference Center revenue bonds, and it's the Finance Committee, which I chair, and who is going to speak to that?
I'll start, and then I'll have Ms. Callan and Ms. Littlefield chime in on legal and financial aspects. But essentially, Tuesday, myself, the Finance Committee Chair and the Finance Committee Vice Chair, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilman Siegel, met with 3 individuals, all with comments and suggestions on the potential refinancing or refunding of our conference center bonds. The reason this is coming before us and in an expedited manner is because, of course, many of you have heard about the potential federal ruling on tax reform, and it would affect the potential for us to advance refund these bonds. And if the passage of the new federal law comes into effect, we would have to do it before the end of the year. So we're on a very tight time frame if we want to exercise our right to advance refinance. If not, our right to advance refinance goes away, and we won't be able to refinance again until the call date. The risk, in a sense, and I'll have Ms. Callan come up and talk to you about, I guess, some of the financial risks that you're waiving. We know what our potential savings would be today, and of course, all of that is dependent upon what the interest rates are at a given day. What you don't know, one, is whether or not the federal government will actually pass tax reform before the end of the year, and the other is if you choose to bet that they aren't and they do, you don't necessarily know what interest rates will be in 2022 on your call date. So you don't necessarily, in a sense, lose any funding per se. What you lose is the advantage of maximizing your potential funding. So right now, Karen can kind of go over what our potential funding would be today, and then some of the obstacles and hurdles that you would have to decide. What we're looking to from you, the Mayor Pro Tem has asked us to discuss this with the council. He was concerned about making that recommendation without the full body being here. Is this something you want to move forward with today with all of the unknowns that you have, and if you're willing to move forward at this point? So
it's a very complicated issue that, because of the time frame and because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. in regards to the finance that's going on with the tax reform. So, and with that, it became like really crazy in our meeting that we met for
Correct. We met for 4 hours, and we met with 3 individuals. One was a financial advisor. So these individuals had contacted us over the course of the years. All of your refunding and finance in the last few years have been done through Bill Camp, which we have a very good relationship with. But what I didn't want to do was to move forward on this specifically if we had been contacted with other individuals and give them an opportunity to have their say. And they were pretty much saying similar things, just in a different manner. So I think the question would be, who are you most comfortable working with? And it appeared that the Mayor Pro Tem was recommending that Bill Camp has done a good job for us, and he was comfortable recommending that if we move forward, we would be moving forward with Mr. Camp.
And so could you kind of give us a simplified version of what we went over, and the timeframes, and and the unknowns? And the unknown is what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. and in regards to tax reform. And so kind of take us from there and figure out, give us an idea of what we're referring to here.
So if they take away the advance refunding and they pass it, which I read earlier that the House of Representatives did pass the tax reform right before I came in about 2 or 3 hours ago.
Yes.
So next it will go to the Senate, and I did read that the Senate is pushing to add back in the advance refunding, because now they're getting a lot of pressure from mayors and municipalities like us. So right now, everyone who has the opportunity to advance refund their bonds are all rushing now to the market to save money. What it looks like to us is about $500,000 and plus $200,000 out immediately, but $500,000 in present value if we do the advance refunding by December 31st. If they take it away from us, then we won't have the opportunity until, like Marcia said, 2022. So we'll have 4 more years, and at that time, we don't know what interest rates are going to look like. If interest rates go up more than 1%, we'll basically be at break even. So it does appear right now, after many analysis from all the different financial advisors and talking to Bill Camp, that the best route is to do an advance refunding before December 31st. However, we are having some, we do have a lot of benchmarks to meet, which is one is that we have to get the Conference Center Authority together, and they have to approve some things. So right now, I think that is what I see is one of our biggest hurdles, and Susan can speak to any add to that.
I don't have much to say. It's the holidays. Folks are not wanting to come in for a meeting, but we'll see if we can get a quorum.
And
So we appointed these folks to a board, and it's inconvenient.
I haven't spoken with any of them and don't know what their conflicts are, but I do know that we asked them to meet on short notice, and that's what we're doing now.
We were able to gather them for one meeting, but then there were other things that came in, so the dates have been very difficult to gather everyone together at the same time. So,
and then you have to line up the meetings and with the advertisements. So there's only specific dates that they can meet. So trying to get all that coordinated during the holidays has been very difficult. Now, if the tax reform does not pass and they put it to rest, then we can move on and refund the bonds as like we were planning to, because before this tax reform came into play, we were already looking at refunding the bonds. But if the tax reform is in limbo, from what I've been told from Bill Camp and Jim Montecel, is that we can't do anything until it's all resolved, because Jim Montecel, the attorney, will not render an opinion, because they'll be tax exempt at one point, and then if not tax exempt at another point.
Question, Mr. Chairman, from Ms. Callan. What amount of money do we stand to save? And I guess if we do this now, what would we have that much better a rate refunding the bonds or renegotiating the bonds now, when we've done that not very long ago, have we not?
We did it with the police administration bonds.
Okay.
And so, yeah, now the interest rates have gone down significantly over the past 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Now it is advantageous for us to look at refunding the bonds.
In the face of the cost that we will have to do that, it's still advantageous.
Correct. After all bond issuance costs, all costs associated, we're looking at netting about $500,000 present value plus $200,000 cash that we could look at either applying more to paying down the bonds or cash it out, so to speak, to put into the conference centers and do some renovations in the conference center.
Okay. But we have to do it by the end of the year. Is there any disadvantage to not doing it?
I would say,
if the timing can work.
I would not necessarily say there are disadvantages. It's just that if nothing happens, you realize potentially less savings, but you don't know what the interest rates are going to be at any given point. So if nothing happens and interest rates continue to stay low, say in 2 years we refinance based on current conditions, we could have probably estimated what type of savings, Karen, close to $1 million.
Yes, that's what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think all in all, it's just where you feel like you want to make a decision. Do you want to, move forward now, or take the risks that nothing will happen and try to realize more savings later on? I think really that's your decision, is what are you hedging your bets on that will happen?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm familiar with Bill. He represented the Board of Education when I was over there. He came in and was a similar situation with our SPLOST bond, and he made a call that saved the county millions of dollars. And so I really think a lot of his opinion on things. I mean, he's very resourceful, and his company is very resourceful. And we save money either way. We might be able to save a little more, but we just don't know. If Mr. Camp says that he, advises this, I mean, I would take it as he's advising me with my own money, as confident as I am in him. So.
And I think we felt that way also. That the problem is with getting all this done between the holidays, and because that's what we are. We're going to be in between the holidays there, and they're saying a lot of people don't want to come to work during the holidays.
Well, this savings is how much?
$500,000 plus $200,000, so about $700,000.
About $700,000 in taxpayer funds. I would hope that our appointed board members would be able to, be able to set an appointment and work with us on saving almost $1 million. And
we all agree to that. We all agree. We want to save money, and we want to, and it's all taxpayers' money that we got to deal with. But it's that window. And so that's going to be the issue. So I guess what I'm hearing from this council then, well, we're going to have to come, this is going to be voted on Monday, I believe.
It's your choice on how you want to handle it. Do you, if you're wanting the full body to be here before you make a firm decision?
I mean, full council, or do we want to just go ahead and say, let's go for it?
Can it be discussed in committee so that they can be up to date on what we?
Well, we're going to lose 3 days if we do that.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The balance of the council and mayor won't be here on Monday?
Yes, they will be, but that's the days that, if we don't, what we're saying, if we say go for it now, okay, that gives us a heads up.
What we're telling you is it's not necessary to take a vote.
Yeah, it's not
We were able
necessary.
to sign a contract with Bill Camp that allows us to just cancel at any time, and it was within her authority.
Yeah, we're still moving as if, and to see how things are playing out. Yep. One other issue we have is trying to get the bonds validated. I think the judge's schedule, we're having to work around that a little bit.
Well, I think they're going to be working up until Christmas time, but there's a certain amount of advertising that has to be done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It does. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't pass, we're good. We can just keep going on as usual, but if it does, we've lost.
So you guys giving us the nod to move forward without addressing this on Monday with your colleagues?
Yes, we are.
That might be helpful because we, at one time, had a meeting set for the authority for next week, so maybe we can reset that.
All right, folks, that's, you got your charge and your
Sounds good.
challenge. Okay, do we need an executive meeting for anything? Okay. Okay, if we don't, okay, then I make a motion that we adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This meeting is over.